Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about House of the Dragon Season 2. I know I'm not the only one who was underwhelmed by that season. It didn't live up to the hype. It didn't at all. So if you're as underwhelmed as I was, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the characters, the plot lines, and everything in between. So let's not waste anybody's time. Let's do this. So first off, let's start with the pacing issues. I think that the overall story of this season, despite its slow start, it started slow, and we understand that. I personally did. It has to reintroduce us to the story and the characters and everything. But it now kind of dawned on us that, this is kind of how the whole season is going to be. It's not just that because of it's the first few episodes. And I think that's when it started to hit home from those middle episodes. That's after Blood and Cheese and the rest, that the story wasn't going anywhere. Season one, despite its slow start, it always felt like it was leading somewhere. Like each story was well crafted, and as we watched each event unfold, they all had a purpose. Like, remember the overall story, like how Damon killing his wife would later on lead him to get married to Rhaenyra and get closer to the throne, that thing which he always wanted. Or how Aemon losing his eye led to the animosity between the children. It deepened, and that culminated in him killing Lucerys later on. Even though the way it was in the series, it was like kind of an accident, but still, you could understand he really wanted his revenge. Everything, even Rhaenyra and Alicent's friendship, it all, they crafted it well to make it so that when it eventually breaks, when they eventually come to blows, it felt more impactful. And we're waiting for that in the later seasons. Everything seemed clear by the end of season one that, everything is about to start. The war is inevitable. Season two is going to be things happening, and the dance of the dragon begins in full force. But then we start off season two where we left off. Of course, Rhaenyra is heartbroken. She lost a child. It's expected she will mourn, but then she will come to be an active queen, while trying to get her revenge and take what is rightfully hers. They will show us each character scheming, plotting, putting their own pieces on the board to win the war. But then it continues on like that. For almost every episode, it's the same thing. They just go to the throne room, go to the council, go to their meetings, and it's the same thing. Nothing is happening. They just talk about the war, but you never actually see anything happening. Constant inaction. I was always wanting to point out, because some people will be like, yeah, Game of Thrones didn't have action, action, action. You people just want action. No, it's not that. Game of Thrones did not have action, but it had engaging dialogue. It had dialogue that kept you on your feet. It had stories that were leading somewhere and had payoff at the end of each story until the latter seasons. Think back now. What conversation in House of the Dragon has you on edge, like has you at the edge of your seat, like chaos is a ladder with Littlefinger and Varys, or Cersei's power is power with Littlefinger, or even Tywin and Olenna, their usual dialogue, their usual banter? Most of these conversations kept you engaged even when there wasn't any action. In House of the Dragon, everything is just bland, not horrible, no, but just bland and forgettable. Just going round and round, saying the same thing, doing the same thing, and actually not getting anything done. Then moments they could have expanded on to give more substance to the story, because sometimes it feels like there's not enough story. Because I know, how the Fire and Blood book is not as long as A Song of Ice and Fire, but still there's a lot of story that they skipped over or just rushed through. Like, they could have added extra scenes with Jace in the north, with Craig and Stark. That would have been interesting. I've not really read the books, but from what I've learned, from my knowledge, there was a lot he actually did in the north. They could have added more of that to the first episodes, like maybe 1 and 2. That would have added extra story. Instead of just seeing him and Cregan look out into the wasteland of the north beyond the wall. Or how about they had added less of Daemon dreams and just show us more of those Bracken and Blackwood scenes? Bloody Ben seems so interesting. I don't even know that guy. Was he supposed to be Bloody Ben, that Blackwood boy? I don't know if that's actually him or they are bringing him for later. But there was the Battle of the Burning Mill. They could have showed us some of that. There was so much they could have done with those time instead of what we got. And it's honestly heartbreaking. Like, the story seemed like it had no direction for lots of its characters. Its characters were just trying to go from point A to point B without actually adding any substance in between, actually taking us along for the ride. And honestly, that's a shame because unlike season one, which actually took us on the journey, we could see, and even though season one had time skips, I still felt like I was engaged with each part of the story, but not so with most of season two. Some parts were engaging, like the bastard sequence when Vermithor cooked all of them. The sequence with the bastards getting to the dragon seeds and all that was interesting. But I think to my and also the Battle of Rook's Rest. Yeah, that too was engaging. That was a good sequence of story. Kristen Cole really carried that whole part. He was really scheming, really controlling everything, and I really liked how he put all the pieces on the puzzle. Him and Amon too played a big role in that. Those were the biggest parts of the story for me. Those were the most engaging parts of the story. Those two plots. But every other thing, it just felt bland and uninteresting most of the time, to be honest. So now let's talk about those characters. Season one gave us some interesting characters that we actually fell in love with, from Daemon to Rhaenyra herself, to Aegon to Aemond, and all in between. If they felt fleshed out, we understood their motives, flaws, their relationships, the complexities of their stories, and everything. And we eagerly awaited season two to see what they would do with that, to see how they would build on that. But boy, were we wrong for most of them. It felt like some stayed stagnant, they didn't move at all, and some characters actually regressed. Take the most obvious choice, Rhaenyra and Alicent, two complex characters that became watered-down versions of themselves. Rhaenyra reduced to almost like a background character, except just, feeding people to dragons. And she didn't really do, what else could you think that she did in that whole season? That wasn't a dumb decision, apart from her going to King's Landing to meet Alicent. That was very dumb. And Alicent is she lost all her venom. Like, she went from wanting to stab one of Rhaenyra's children in season one to get an eye for an eye, to really wanting to sacrifice her own son just for peace. What? Like, bro, Alicent would never do that, to be honest. That's not in her character. And it's like them trying to make it that, oh yeah, these two feminine figures are not in the wrong in anything they do. It's just the men around them who push them to do things. It's the men around them who are controlling this. It's the men around them that have made it like this, that they just want peace and la-di-da. When that's not in fact true, that just makes for boring, bland characters. Like, imagine, for instance, Cersei now. Do you think Cersei would ever give up Joffrey for peace? Hell no. She would sooner have the whole kingdoms burned to the ground than have any of them touch even a single strand of Joffrey's hair on his head. It's what made us hate her, actually, but it's also what made her complex and an interesting character. But it's part of this bigger trend in Hollywood where they try to make women can do no wrong and somehow it's always the men's fault. But it makes for terrible storytelling. Or take Damon, a complex scheming character that we didn't quite know what he wanted. He was just the Casanova. He was the bad influence in the courts. All the mystery has just been reduced to a mommy's boy with mommy issues who just wants to be loved and trips on mushrooms for like half the story. Like, really? Is this all the writers could come up with? Like, for real? Is this the best they could do? I always look at the relationships too. Like, I don't actually understand Damon and Rhaenyra's relationships. Even his relationship with his daughter, it's like they also backtracked in that. Like, take Jace with Baela. Honestly, I had to keep reminding myself, scene to scene, I'm not even kidding, that they are betrothed. and they're supposed to be married, like married to each other. Like there was no love, you know? Like it's not everything that needs to be like a sex scene. They could have just made it something simple, like two of them holding hands, even with all that chaos, they still find time for each other. Holding hands, walking down the river to the towns in on Dragonstone. Or it could be something like maybe when she walks in behind him, she just holds him like that time she told him to stop pouting. She could have just hugged him from behind. And that tells the viewers that, yeah, okay, there's still connections in this show. There's still love. It's not, I'm not trying to see Alicent and Kristen Cole bumping uglies for the how many a time only, you know? You can show us other things. But instead of any of that, the writers just went the usual way, the Rhaenyra Mycelia roots. Like, that was wild. Like, that came out of nowhere, no development, no build-up. I have no problem if they wanted two girls to kiss. But it should have been something that actually was built on, not just out of the blue, and especially when out of context. Like, it came out of nowhere. This season, the people that actually carried this season, funny enough, are Aegon, Kristen Cole, and Aemond. Aemon and Aegon's relationship is really explored in this season. Like, you can tell where Aemond is coming from, like why he hates his brother so much that he was willing to kill him, because you can tell he's really been bullied all his life by his brother. You can tell where the hate is coming from. Aemond was really a crafty person, you know, putting the pieces together. He was the one organizing everything after they sacked Otto from job of Hand of the King. Even Aemon too suffers from the writing, because apart from the Battle of Rook's Rest, he doesn't really do anything. Like, it's not a he problem, it's just a writing problem. Like, he has no stakes. There's nothing that is happening. Corlys's character was completely butchered. Honestly, apart from him no, but just think about it. Did he do anything in this whole season apart from walk to those docks every single time, have the same conversation with either one of his bastard sons, or maybe Rhaenys is there, or he's in the throne room just looking confused? I'm like, bro, you lost your wife. They didn't even give him the time to mourn. Rhaenyra had all the time to mourn. I understand, yes, he's a man and these are hard times. So of course we wouldn't want him to like be sulking throughout the whole season, but at least give him some time to grieve. He lost something precious to him, and he has lost so much to Rhaenyra's cause. No, I expected him to be more fiery, to be more angry at Rhaenyra for all she has cost him. I'm not saying he will turn his back on her, but at least be the one to, tell her to do something, tell her to get things going, that you staked a lot on her claiming back the throne, that if she is to actually, why are they not acting like, if she is to actually lose, all of you's heads are getting chopped off. Like, everybody's acting like, yeah, we have all the time. No, you think you're going to leave this in peace or what? No, you are all traitors if Aegon wins. You are getting your heads chopped off. And if Aemon decides to spare any of you, best be sure that if Aegon decides to spare any of you, Aemon definitely will not. He is going to be slicing and dicing all of your heads. So you need to act like your lives are on the line, because your lives are on the line. This is a gamble. But there's no urgency in the story, and it's so crazy. Like, they're acting like the whole of all the kingdoms are not on fire right now, and it's wild. The plots of this season seem mediocre or non-existent. Like, take season 1. We start off with the story of how Rhaenyra became like the heir to Viserys because he had no sons and he didn't trust his brother. But then we see also Daemon and Corlys' side, where Daemon kills his wife, he and Corlys go to conquer the Stepstones, and then we also come back to Viserys, where he later marries Alicent, and Otto scheming in order to get him to have sons so that the high towers would be the ones that become the power in the court. We see how they all try to vie for power as the king gets sick, and it all leads to Aegon getting crowned king, Aemon killing Lucerys, And at the end of that season, we the viewers and even the characters in the show know that everything's off the table now. It's time for war. You understand? Then compare that to season 2. Apart from like the whole dragon seeds and Rook's Rest, I can't remember any clear direction for the story. The characters, they just do stuff because the writers want them to do stuff. So like Rhaenyra going to meet Alicent, just remember that scene. Like that made no sense at all. That was so dumb. Because like all Alicent had to do was just play nice. Once she stood up from there, why didn't she just call the guards? They would have come and taken Rhaenyra, and the whole war would be over. Like just like that. Her children would be safe, Aegon would be king. As in, like the whole thing of they emphasize this A Song of Ice and Fire story like too much. It's just going for member berries, just looking for callbacks to Game of Thrones. I don't know why. Like all that made no single sense. Just have her arrested. She's in custody. The other ones over there, they still have dragons, but you can leverage her now. Do you guys surrender or we kill her? Either way, you don't even have a dragon rider for her, and we still win. So, like, then you let her go, putting your children's lives and the lives of tens of thousands of innocents that are still going to die in this war. You put all their lives at risk. Or the whole unnecessary sequence of Alicent in the woods, valuable time that could have been used for other characters to develop them. It felt like sometimes the writers thought we only came here to watch like Alicent and Rhaenyra. And everyone else in the background is like just background characters. But no, that's not what makes A Song of Ice and Fire beautiful. What makes that world beautiful is any character can be the main character at that point. It can even be just a soldier. You understand? Everybody can have an impact on the overall story, and everybody has to play everything smart because of their consequences for your actions. One mistake could get your head chopped off. One mistake could make you lose your whole army, your whole life, your whole kingdom. You need to play the game wisely, and you need to act when the time comes. You need to take your chances when you see them. If Tywin had waited instead of using the Red Wedding, I'm guessing Rob would still be alive and might have probably won the war if he had, wasted time. But no, he saw an opportunity and he seized it. And you may call him cruel, you may call him whatever, but he won because he was fast. He moved when he needed to. This show made me wonder, how long does it take to muster an army? Like, I remember in Game of Thrones, the North, that is the largest kingdom, that takes the longest time to muster their soldiers. Rob was able to muster about 20,000 soldiers quickly and start marching south, while Tywin had already mustered his army immediately after Tyrion was captured and was already laying waste to the Riverlands. Renly and his own armies, combined with the Reach, were already ready and waiting to lay siege to King's Landing, and Stannis was already ready with the ones he had from Dragonstone. So everything moves so quick. I don't know why mustering soldiers in this House of Dragon is taking like a snail's pace. Is that all the way by the end of the season that we see armies start marching? I'm like, it doesn't take that long to muster. You had so long to do things. So you're telling me since it's only the soldiers from the Crown Lands you could muster, that's too long. You're dragging things out. I don't know why they are dragging things out. I understand that Fire and Blood is a small book, but there's so much more they could have added. They could have made Blood and Cheese more horrifying. Imagine her having to actually choose, and the one that she chooses is the one that gets his head cut off. That would have damaged her more and damaged Alicent more and built more stakes that, yeah, this is actually some serious stuff. Another thing that impacted the story and is going to impact the future stories that even George R. R. Martin had to talk about is their cutting of a lot of important characters, like Nettles, the black character, which they decided, yeah, we're gonna cut her, but then you race swap the Valarians. It's so strange the things they do in Hollywood. Maylor, and it was at the end of the whole season 2 that they finally gave us a sneak peek of Daron the Daring, because they had to hide him because they don't want any sympathetic characters, any likable characters for the Greens, because they just want it to be a simple good versus bad. But no, that removes any nuance. That removes any. All in all, House of Dragon season 2 was not horrible. Definitely not as bad as the latter seasons of Game of Thrones, like what some people say online. I don't think it was that bad. But I do believe that it was just mediocre. It was just there. It was just something you watched and you just moved on to another thing. But it could have been so much better. It could have been so beautiful and so engaging. And it could have made us excited for the next season. But now even the writer, George, is even pissed. So I don't even know what to expect for the next season. But, well, I guess we'll see it when it comes out. So, let me know your thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts on House of Dragons Season 2. Tell me if you loved it, hated it, or just somewhere in the middle. Let me know what you think. So, if you love beautiful stories like I do, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you always get updates when I drop new videos. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys in the next video.